Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Let's take on another one of these Am I the Assholes? If you're new to this channel, this is Dr. Ramani's YouTube channel on narcissism. And sometimes we take on what sort of people are wondering, is this narcissistic or asshole-like behavior or not? We break that down. So here's one for you. Am I the asshole for only feeding one child frozen food? It's a weird title. It'll make sense in a minute. So this person writes, my son is Indian and his friend, who is white, are both 9. My son brought his friend over after school on the bus. I messaged his mother and asked if this was okay and how late he was staying. She asked if he could stay until 10. I served dinner around 8, so he would be eating with us. I cook a lot of Indian cuisine in my house because that's what I grew up making. My son told me that his friend was very picky and asked if I could make him something else. I keep fries and chicken nuggets for when my son has picky friends over. So we all sit to eat, and my son's friend seems happy with the nuggets, and they go play after dinner. The boy's mom picks him up a little after 9. I get a text later asking why I fed her son frozen food when I cooked a fresh dinner for everyone else. I told her my son said the boy wouldn't eat what I was making. She said I should have made him something also instead of just getting freezer food. Well, I told her I provided free childcare without notice, and her kid chose not to eat what everyone else ate. I continued that when I was a child, my mother didn't offer anyone alternatives to what he was made, so he's lucky I accommodated him. She told me that she wouldn't let her son stay with a child abuser anymore. Wow. First of all, this one, if she came to my house and her child played at my house, fresh dinner, I mean, my children, I think frozen food is dinner. I mean, damn. So much here to unpack. I'm laughing to myself because I'm thinking like the amount of frozen pizzas, chicken nuggets, frozen French fries. In fact, I thought the air fryer was like the biggest invention since the light bulb. So this woman would not have been playing with her child would not be playing with my children, which clearly is a blessing. So let's break this down a little bit. Parenting is a really interesting space when it comes to narcissism, right? In fact, I'm going to do some content on that one because we often think about narcissistic romantic relationships, narcissistic family relationships, workplace friendships. But here's one we don't talk about, narcissism in the world of parenting. Like, in other words, other parents of other children. It's such an interesting space because you have a child and the child becomes friends with another child. You may or may not like that other child's parents, right? You don't know. I mean, the kids are friends. And what happens is because of your kids, if you have kids, you may get pulled into proximity of people you would never be friends with, let alone talk with. But because you care about your children, you want to make a good faith effort to get to know their parents. This can be real tricky because, as we know, I mean, I don't know that this woman is necessarily narcissistic. I do know that her behavior is really toxic. You know, that idea that, in fact, someone did step up, your kid got on the bus, you're like, I'll get him at 10, which is actually kind of late. I'm assuming maybe it's not a school night. The person offers to make dinner, and then the person's complaining you didn't make them a fresh dinner. It's actually, you know, it's absolutely mind-blowing that somebody would actually feel entitled to that. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing things like mostly entitlement we're seeing here, but also an arrogance and a lack of empathy. So you then, your kid's friends with someone, that person is a parent, and that parent could be toxic or narcissistic. What do you do? Well, like I said, I'll get into that in another video sometime. But that it really has sort of forced this Indian food cooking mother into the proximity of another mother who clearly does not have good manners. It may even be the kind of thing, like I have to say, I've run into this more than a few times with parents. A lot of mothers who had a lot of time on their hands, a lot of money, a lot of help, whatever they had. I was always working when I've had kids. I am not a natural cook. So I did the best I could. And, you know, to put together meals, I'd always make a point of making a fresh vegetable, but everything else often was just like whatever I could bring together from, you know, chicken nuggets and the like, whatever. And I do know that there are people out there who are almost deranged in how they sort of approach things like food and their kids. And the grand irony, and I'm going to tell you this right now, there ain't nothing funnier than watching a 16-year-old who is now able to use their own money to buy junk food. They literally look like, I mean, it looks like Vegas when they eat. Like, these are kids who are like buying every sweet and candy and cookie because they can. Whereas the kids who kind of got it were sort of like, whatever, Oreos at home, Oreos at school, doesn't matter. And so I find it absolutely fascinating that I think that the kids who kind of grow up in these kind of crazed environments often don't know how to regulate themselves. But there's something so elitist about some, you have to cook my child fresh food. And this also gets at this issue of how very egocentric, entitled, arrogant people don't communicate. There's a real expectation in narcissistic people of mind reading. They expect people anticipate their wants and needs. And it's a core issue of why there's almost always so much tension and volatility in narcissistic relationships, because narcissistic people feel chronically let down. People are never doing what they want because they literally do believe other people should read their mind. If this woman was going to, fob off her kid on this other person from after school until 10 o'clock at night, and she had some fresh food obsession, then that's a conversation to have before dinner. And to have said, what are you having for dinner? And the mom might have said, well, I'm making Indian food, whatever dishes she's making. And the mother might say, ooh, he's not going to eat that, but I insist he has a fresh dinner. Then Indian mom might have been able to say, lady, I ain't got no options. If you need him to have a fresh dinner, you can either bring it over or you can come pick him up. Because the option here, fresh Indian dinner or chicken nuggets and fries, which I got to tell you is sort of normative cuisine for children of the age of 9. And if people are going to say, oh, I don't think that's very healthy, you know what, whatever, then you must really not be able to get out of the house that much, because sometimes you got to eat the chicken nuggets, not 7 days a week, but every so often, right? And so that idea of somebody would read your mind, but that you're so arrogant and so entitled that you don't need to communicate about it, that's very signature narcissistic. But the cherry on the top of this very toxic ice cream sundae or Indian food is that the person said she wouldn't let her son stay with a child abuser anymore. Child abuser? She gave him chicken nuggets. If that's the case, I should be in prison. So I think that I have to say, and I've definitely walked the hard yards in the parent area in terms of difficult, demanding kinds of parents and really weird requests for what they would need their kids to get when they were at my house. And I think that for so many parents, especially parents who might be managing, for example, work and kids, or maybe even a narcissistic relationship and stuff, and kids and all the rest of it in life, that when something like this happens, you get yourself in sort of a thought pattern of, is this my fault? Or it just sort of adds one more stressor into a life that already has enough. That this person would even question that somebody called her a child abuser for giving another child chicken nuggets and French fries. My heart aches for her that she thinks she could possibly be an asshole for thinking, am I the asshole for having given a child frozen food? It was fully incumbent on that other parent, if they had these fussy regulations, or maybe their child had some sort of dramatic food allergies, that they could have said, hey, my child can't eat this, this, and this, and can only eat this, and then maybe then say, I'm going to drop off a dinner for them. So the expectation that this woman would have gone into her kitchen, prepared something different for this child. First of all, my heart aches for this child. Can you imagine the life this 9-year-old chicken nugget eating child is living in? Not pleasant. And I can already imagine either the poor kid is going to be really, really anxious as an adult, or just have some real issues around expressing emotions. It speaks to that idea of parent entitlement. Like I said, a video coming on that soon. But it's a real problem. And I think that sometimes we think like, oh, I've managed a narcissist in my family. I've managed a narcissist in my romantic world. I've managed a narcissist in my work or my friends. It's interesting that back doors that that narcissistic people can come through. And here's a great example of it, through a gateway that you don't even actually control because it's your kid's friend. But oh, hell no, you are not the asshole. And like I said, if giving a child chicken nuggets and french fries is a mortal sin, then heaven help us all. Such is the entitlement of a narcissistic parent. Thanks again.